Okay, we're back in the hide zone. Today we're going to take a look at this hide that I put in some vinegar solution to see if the areas I was having trouble with, these kind of sandpaper areas, have improved at all. Whether they're going to dehair now, whether they still feel crusty under the knife. There's one of those spots right there. It's very crusty, like very, very crusty. That one, see? Very crusty. So we're going to see if those have improved at all. I don't think they have, but I have a new theory, which is that they could have been contaminated with alum because someone was alum tanning in the tubs right next to where these were liming, and it could very easily happen that some alum solution got on the tub lid or on the beam, on the table, like anywhere that I may have set these hides. When I opened the line tub and it was partly drained, most of the hides were still mostly underneath, and this hide was on top, but I think every single hide has some of these weird spots. So we're going to see if these spots are any different, or if it seems like maybe, you know, there's some dissolved calcium there. This isn't a super strong vinegar solution, but it's been in there for like, I think 3 days. It seems like that should be enough to have some significant effect. I'm leaning towards the alum theory though, in which case I would probably treat all the hides in alum and then bark tan them, which I've never done, but I don't see why not. It may also be possible to remove some of the alum with repeated washing and scudding. It's usually said to be a reversible tan. I've never tried to reverse it. I don't really do it that much because I can't make alum. And I usually tan with stuff I can make or gather. And you can gather alum. In fact, there's a place in California called Alum Rock where apparently it was mined, but it's not a very common mineral. Well, it does seem to be improving a little when I scrape on it. So I think what I'll do for now is, well, I got an idea. Let's test my theory. I'm just going to put this back. I was kind of afraid this would undergo like a great degree of acid swelling, but it doesn't seem to have at all, which could indicate that it's too weak. I'm tempted to taste it to see how acidic it tastes, but I think I'll pass. And these hides, if they've improved any in those spots. Can you see how loose and floppy this is getting now? It's really starting to lose the rubber. So yeah, I want to see what those spots look like, if they're still here. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll just have to go back and watch the previous videos in this process. Here we go. There's a bad one right there. I want to see, here, listen. I want to see if I scratch over these a bit. Nope, nothing. Maybe slightly improved, but not enough. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to see if I can use this knife to cut straight across the neck here. And we're going to try to repeat this problem using the alum. I'm going to take some of this solution and just wipe it right across the center right there. Now this doesn't necessarily mimic the strength of whatever got on these hides. So let's say these are being alum tanned, someone takes them out and sets them on a tub lid, then the liquid evaporates and concentrates the alum there, and then it gets on my hide. You know, that's like a scenario that could happen. Doesn't look like that alum tanning's going too well. Not my problem. I just want it to sit for a while like that. I'm going to go over the flesh side of these hides again. Let's not get more of that stuff on here. People had a lot of suggestions about the beam and fixing the beam. As my friend used to say, It's like polishing a turd. You know, this whole side is actually like broken. It's just not, you know, no. I don't want to put any time into this, so I don't have to. It seems to be going okay for just this like scudding and stuff, so. Okay, so this time it's gonna be super fast. Push the water out. Put new water in the tub. And I think it's been, this is maybe like the third day after my last video. Something about like that. So this is it, you know, very little tissues coming off, just a little bit. At this point, like, I probably won't scud it again after this. They just are feeling good. So one thing I often forget to do, I need to like rinse everything off. You know, it rains and like the rain splashes mud up on here and who knows what happens, but there's definitely some dirt around here that wasn't here before. This is the last scudding. So maybe that was only 3. Again, I'm going by feel, so I know that they'll relax just a little bit more in this next soaking, but I don't really feel like I need to push anything out. Now the cattle hide may take a bit more because it's just real thick. You can also see the liquid coming out. It's pretty clear. It's just a little milkiness. All right, this is boring. Cut to checking the alum hide. So I got all those sheep hides scudded and changing the water. In the meantime, let's see how our squirrel's doing, if it's getting any easier to dehair or not. Yeah, maybe a little bit. Not a lot, but it's dehairing fine now. It's plenty good enough. And each time I just flesh on this a little more, it gets closer to finished. If I don't get everything off, it'll just come off easier after it's tanned a little bit. All right, let's take a look. So this end was already affected. I wiped some alum solution on the middle here, which does not feel any different. And I dipped this in the bucket that may have alum in it, and it is unaffected, unlike this over here. Inconclusive, because again, I don't have any idea at all what the strength of those alum solutions is. So it still could be either thing. It could be lime, it could be alum. All the alum that I had was used up in that batch of hides. I can't really test this beyond that. I think what I'm going to do... Okay, let's do this. This I'm going to throw in that alum tub solution and see if it changes, and it can always be compared back. This is nasty. Just going to shove it down here in the corner. Let's see what that does. Like everywhere there's one of those weird spots, the hide's going to look funny. It's probably going to be a different color, certainly a different texture and a different appearance. And unless I can figure out that that definitely was alum and treat all the hides with alum to even them out and so they're all the same, which is, you know, an interesting experiment to do that and then bark tan them. But mostly just to even that surface out. So if I go to town this week, I could grab some alum, just a little bit from the grocery store or something. So I don't think I'm going to start a bait or a drench in this case. I think I'm going to soak these. I'll scud them one more time and then they'll go into the bark solution. The cattle hide has had very little done to it. Again, there's a lot of those spots on there and I have to think about what kind of work I want to put into this, because I could also like cut around them, maybe cut some pieces out and tan those. Okay, let's get back to the hides. Unfortunately, look at this mess. I forgot to put the lid on this. There are acorns and dirt that's splashed up because it rained really hard. So let's just rinse these in here real light and real quick. Oh, first rinse the beam, because I have the same problem with water, you know, hitting the ground and splashing raindrops up here with dirt in them. So I really want to clean this off well. Look at all that. Oh, I can't wait till someday I have like a clean tannery thing with like a clean floor. That'll be a great day. Now I should have really been on these hides. I would have liked to have them in the tan almost like a week ago. Wow, that came out really clean, so that's encouraging. Looks like most of this is going to rinse off well. So, you know, the longer they sit in here, the more they may start to become damaged. They do smell a little bit, but not real bad. And we'll go ahead and drain this water and give them a rinse in clean water. It's just, you know, I'm busy. I'm trying to get the web store ready for sales of scions and seeds and other stuff on March 1st. I'm just trying to maximize that so I can get some money in the bank to buy a new battery bank for the solar system, which is probably going to be about $7 grand. Yeah, and that'll last about 15 or 20 years. If anyone tells you that solar power is free or cheap, it is not. Now, if you have access to the grid and you put in solar panels, that's usually a great deal because you can sell power back to the grid. And in many cases, pay no power bill at all. The grid is acting as your battery, and that's one of the most expensive parts. Now, while that is draining, I'm going to fish out this piece of hide I put in here. Oh my. That is very changed. So yeah, this is like tanned now. And I think that's what happened. I'm almost sure now that those weird spots on the hides are actually alum. Now there's a problem with that, which is that when I went to town, I didn't get alum because I forgot. If I don't go to town, I don't think there's any alum here. I think it all got used in this project by my landmates, unless this. Touch my tongue with that a little bit and it doesn't seem astringent, so I think it's just water. Yeah, so although I couldn't really replicate what happened to the hides exactly, how they got those spots, I'm pretty sure that's what happened actually now, is that either the beam was left with alum on it or one of those lids had alum on it or something like that, and I piled my hides on it and they all got affected in little spots, you know, kind of like tie-dye. Yeah, look at all this dirt in here. If things continue to go my way in terms of my health and everything, I really want to build a tannery. Basically, I've planned for years is a series of 3 buildings, and they each have different basic purposes. So one building would be the beam house, and that's this stuff, like flushing, dehairing, liming, getting rid of all the gunk and the goo and getting them to this stage. Then they move into the next building, which would be the tanning building with the actual, you know, tannic acid solutions and whatever else. And then the third one would be a clean, preferably totally enclosed and heated room that would be the currying room. So for finishing leather, drying leather, dyeing leather, oiling, breaking, softening, all of that stuff. So that's the basic plan, and have kind of a resource flow that comes, you know, the hides come in, maybe there's a small building for storing salted hides. They come into the beam house, they get limed, they get cleaned, go into the tanning thing, go into the finishing room, and there's kind of like a logical flow of resources through that system. Now I want you guys to notice what these hides really look like now. They're really floppy and really relaxed, and they're totally fallen back to their previous floppy state. In fact, even more so, really. Like, it just feels really silky, and it just you can kind of swirl it around and it just flows really loose like that. So there's that weird elephant skin looking stuff on the neck, which I'm convinced I'm going to be able to use that to good effect somewhere. The first thing I thought of was like short shorts for the pockets because I'm a perv, but yeah, I think that would be great. Not for me. I also stupidly left my apron on the ground. I'll like berate other people and like preach at you about how you should clean up your tanning area and rinse everything and put stuff away, but it's just a classic case of do as I say, you know. I actually like cleaning everything and having everything put away and stuff, but it's easy to forget and just walk off. There's an old saying, I think it's a Chinese proverb, maybe the farmer's footsteps are the best fertilizer. And it just means that if you're in the garden, if you're on the farm, if you're walking around, you know exactly what's going on. You know when there's pests and disease you have to deal with. You know when things need water. You weed. You know, it's attention. Plant husbandry, that's what makes a garden grow. This is pretty close, but I don't come down here, you know, unless I know I have something to do. So it's really easy to just kind of put stuff off and yeah, forget about it. So yeah, I'm happy with these. There's a little dirt on them, but they're basically real clean. And I think it's time to put them in the tan, unless I'm going to try to get alum. I'm going to find out if there's any alum on the property. I don't think there is, but hopefully there's a little bit. If there's not, I have to make the decision whether I put these in the way they are or wait to get some alum to try to treat the hides so that the surface is all the same when I put it into the bark tan. And I'm real curious about that, actually. Like, I would definitely leave at least one of them the way it is, but maybe treat the other ones, get them to where they feel the same and they seem the same, and then bark tan them, and also, you know, see what like the texture differences are between this like combination alum and bark tan, what the color's like, because the alum has a reputation for brightening colors, making them, yeah, lighter and brighter, basically. So that could be really interesting too. I'm just curious what happens. So we will find some of that out because of the alum stained spots on the hides. So I'm gonna go find out if there's any alum on the property. I'm just gonna turn this down and let it trickle. There's no alum on the property. I'm gonna look at the hides, find out if there's any that are clean. This one actually looks like it may not have any weird spots on it. I'm gonna assume it doesn't. That's going straight in the tan. The other thing about alum is it's supposed to be able to be washed out. I just am not convinced. I can still feel that spot. Although it does seem better. I can see that spot. Yeah, so let's take this one. So this one I'm gonna put in here. This was a bucket of alum. I touched the water to my tongue and I didn't feel any astringency at all. But what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put this in here and leave it for a while. We'll check it maybe tonight or tomorrow. It's kind of gross. The hair is slipping, you know, basically the alum didn't work. I can feel that it worked in some areas, like this is super tight, but you know, it didn't work everywhere. Obviously you can see this is slipping. It's gross, it's dirty, but it does have alum in it and it will affect the hides. So I have to decide if I want to take this dirty, nasty alum water, take these hides out and put my hides in it. And I don't think I do, because I'm gonna get so much dirt. Look at this dirt. You know, I've spent all this time cleaning my hides. Option 3, I leave the hides, I go to town tomorrow, I get alum in town and treat these hides. But I don't want to go to town. It's going to use up half my day at least, even if I try to just run in real quick. Screw it. It's time to start tanning. This is not a dead body. It's a bundle of basket willow that's going to be available as cuttings in my store. You can see I have all this nice basket willow here. This is stinky. It smells like sheep, but that's okay, because bark tan's magic. When you tan a hide in bark and then oil it and dry it and soften it, it smells like leather, without exception so far for me. And it's not horrible, it just smells like sheep and a little stinky. This is pretty weak, but it's not super weak, and there's definitely tannin in there. Gotta get suited up here. We're just gonna put these in here for the initial tan. There's some pieces of bark left in here. This was actually just like a whole bunch of chunks of random bark like this that I put in here and let soak for, I don't even know, it could have been a couple years. It could have been bark that was slightly damaged or something like that. Okay, so you can see this is already taking a little bit of color. So these hides are going to slurp up whatever's in here very fast. This is just, we're just getting them started. Want to use up the tannin that's in there, because it's, you know, it's tannin, it's valuable. I am going to leave that third hide in the alum bucket, but I don't think it's going to do anything. But that's okay. It can go in here tomorrow or maybe tonight. If it's not affected at all by this evening or in like a few hours, I'm just going to put it in. Okay, so through today, I'm going to try to come back here many times and really stir these things around, and not just kind of like with a stick real quick, but kind of, you know, making sure they get opened out and sloshed around a lot. If I don't do that, they're going to end up with like a lot of really uneven spots on them with like streaks and parts that aren't tanned at all, because anywhere the hide's touching itself, the tannin isn't getting to it. The nice thing about this tub and the big tub I'm going to use here is it's a good size. And there's a lot of liquid in it. So there's plenty of room for the hides to kind of swim around in there and not be packed too tight. So you can imagine if I put even one of these hides in a 5-gallon bucket full of tan bark solution, it's going to be really hard to have the hide accessing the solution, like having most of the surface accessing the solution at any given time is what I'm saying. Whereas in this case, most of the hides are going to be touched by the solution at any given time, even if I walk away. And then if I stir them frequently, that'll help even out the color. Once the outside of the skin is tanned, that becomes less and less relevant, and you can kind of procrastinate and let it sit for longer. But on day one, it really is a good idea to just, you know, the more the better, moving them around, and that way they'll also use up the solution quicker. I'll probably want to just bail on this solution entirely by tomorrow, and I have 2 more tubs like this. I'm going to use all that stuff that I already have up first, and then I'll think about chopping some new bark. And I'll probably just go to my firewood pile and pull out some logs and just chop the bark straight off of the firewood. It's easy to do, and that way I'll be using that bark instead of the stuff I have stored in the bark shed back here. There's also this funky thing. It's got all kinds of weird spots and stuff. I'd like to scrape over this one more time. It's got some issues here. That's like really weak grain right there. That's not normal. The reason I want to scrape over this one more is it's, you know, it got thrown in the lime after it was partially tanned, and it is quite a bit tanned too. It wasn't just a little bit tanned. Parts of it are definitely very under tanned, but other parts are probably finished or close to finished. So it still has a bunch of this milky lime stuff in it, and who knows what. It's not really, you know, normal to put a hide partly tanned, full of tannic acid into lime. So I just want to squeeze stuff out of here one more time. I'm also not going to put this hide in with those other hides because I don't want that lime or whatever's in here contaminating it. But this might make a utilitarian piece of leather for something. For one thing, it could be twisted into a rope, you know, if it's not totally weak. You could cut it into strips and twist it into a rope, and that would be pretty cool. When I'm scraping this, I hope you can tell how different it is than the untanned hides. Like the water just comes out of it easier. So there's basically absorption and adsorption. And absorption is like a sponge. It's spaces, right? Like a sponge is just a bunch of holes in a material. So this is like a bunch of space between fibers, but because it's been tanned, the water reacts with the hide very differently. Now in the raw hides that haven't been tanned yet, the water is interacting chemically more with these proteins and substances, and I don't know what they are, polysaccharides or whatever. But when you tan the hide, it changes that. And when it's thoroughly tanned, like the water, it's more like a sponge than like a chemical reaction. So it's just full of water, but the water leaves easy. You can see it just kind of, like I push it out and it leaves this dry surface like that. So yeah, this one is going to go in a different tan. This little squirrel can go right in with the rest of this stuff. It's ready enough. Boom. Man, that thing's been around forever. When that squirrel turns out decent, it'll prove like just how much these solutions preserve the hide, because that thing could be going on like 4 months It was probably in ashes for at least a month on the counter, and then I put it in lime for a long time, and then it went in with the rest of these hides. It's much older than them. I'm just gonna rinse that one more time, and we'll tan that in like a bucket or something. So let's take a look at bark liquors I have, the old ones. Move those up into this tub so that when the hides have taken everything out of this water, I don't want to use any of this because it's pretty gross. I'll rinse the hides and then put them into the next solutions over there. This is ropey. You see? It's stringy, like snotty. That's like some, like the bacteria produce polysaccharides or something. I don't really know what it is. It happens in fermented vegetables too. As far as I know, in fermented vegetables, it doesn't hurt anything. Like, it's just kind of weird and gross. I don't know what it does with tan liquor, but I guess we're gonna find out if it's a problem. Again, this was just like a bunch of random pieces of bark. Maybe it got rained in one time and I was just like, screw it, put a lid on it. Maybe I didn't have a place to store it. That could be it. It could have been just kind of funky. What the heck is this? Oh, wow. This looks like bird skin. Oh yeah, this is turkey skin. I bet I just threw this in here and just was like, let's see what happens. It's hard as a rock. There's some more. Oh, there's another piece. Those things are just, they feel hard. Okay, let's find out what ropey, snotty bark tan solution does. It's experimentation by procrastination here at SkillCult. It's one of our primary techniques. Yeah, this is the same thing, just big chunks of tan bark. But you can see there's a bunch of tannin in here. I don't recommend this method, but I have to say it would be interesting to test if you soak bark for a really long time in big chunks, like how much of it you're getting, you know, the tannin leached out. I'm not going to put this with the other liquor right now. I'm just going to get it into this bucket, half of it or some of it. Take it up there, start the tanning in the stuff that's already in the tub, see how that goes. And then I'll use this to bump the strength up that liquor back up as it starts to be depleted. Okay, and in case it rains, cover this up, throw the turkey skins back in here. We'll look at those later maybe. And let's look at a cattle hide. Smells like apple cider vinegar. I've got pretty large areas of the hide that are contaminated with alum. I don't think the hair is going to come out. You know, it is better. Okay. Well, that's good. Maybe the vinegar helped reverse the alum. Maybe I was wrong and it is actually lime. I think it's alum, but the hair's coming out. So I'm going to try to get all the hair out of this. If you watched earlier videos in this series, you may have remember a brand. So this is a brand that was burned into the cow. You can see the scar tissue is really holding on to some of these hairs. So I'm just going to kind of scrub at them with my gloves. These gloves have like a real rough texture, which is actually pretty handy for cleaning things. Hopefully when this is tanned, we'll be able to tell what this brand is, if it's like something recognizable. I keep looking at it at different angles and I can't figure out if it says something. Or, you know, these hairs can also be just sort of shaved off even on the finished leather. So I think that's about the best I can do with that. Let's see. But this really shows the power of that alum when this hide could have been dehaired before it got contaminated with the alum. But the alum really still was able to set the hair to the point where, yeah, like the hair's breaking and it's coming off, but you can see the hair roots in here. This won't be ready for the tan solution for a while. Kind of worst case scenario with this is it'll produce some ugly leather along with good leather. Whoa, do not fall on the ground. And that's okay. You know, you can always find something to use some ugly leather for. And, you know, this type of hide, like thick cattle hide, it's going to get cut up anyway. Belts, sheaths, axe sheaths, knife sheaths. Okay, so I'm now scudding the hair side. I'm going to do this many times, you know, at least 2 more times after this, because as the hide loosens and soaks up in the water and the lime starts to leave, I'm hoping that more and more of these hairs that are stuck in the hair roots will come out. I'm not going to get them all, but the more I get, the better. Also, this is a very thick hide, and there's a lot of junk in here. You can see this dirt. I can still see like mineral, white mineral lime coming out of the hide in places, and I really want to get that all clean. As much as this hide's going to be partly screwed up already, and I know that, it's still going to make a lot of nice leather, and there's a pretty big investment in time and energy and bark. Again, the bark isn't that valuable to me, but cutting the bark is. And cutting enough bark to tan this is, you know, it's a bit of a project. You know, I keep forgetting to talk about this, and I notice it when I'm editing the videos, but you don't want to scrape over wrinkles too much. I don't know if anyone's noticed it or you could see it, but when I approach wrinkles, I often have like a strategy where I'm kind of coming in from the side and trying to push the wrinkles out as I scrape, so that I don't have to stop and, you know, do this kind of thing. But if you have to, you know, you do what you need to not scrape over the wrinkles, at least not too hard or with too sharp of a tool, etc. It makes it really easy to cut the grain and screw it up permanently. Once the grain is damaged, that is it. Just flip this over and do the hair flesh side again before I put it back. These are cut marks from the slaughter guy. Now this hide's, you know, very thick, so I can really lay into it. The inconsistencies on my beam surface don't matter that much. Okay, so as you can see, I'm getting quite a bit of tissue off here, but it's really getting down there. You know, it's getting down to being a nice clean hide. You know, still squishing out some dirt and lime and goo from inside the hide. So we're killing two birds with one stone. You know, as far as scudding goes, it's just, people are just relentlessly trying to get out of scudding. I just, you know, the questions never end of like, do I have to scud? Could I do this instead? You know, do whatever you want. Just try it and see if it works. Yeah, I'm pro scudding for the reasons I've already said. It really forces stuff out of the hide, especially in the absence of machines or a really good fast moving stream. It just seems like the way to go. Now, if I had, you know, a real operation going, tanning a lot of hides, doing it for money, trying to get more efficient, I would definitely shave down the scudding as much as possible and try to use other things where I could. I just slowly try to, like, you know, do less and less of this kind of mechanical stuff until I just hit a point where it wasn't working, and then find that perfect balance. But as an occasional home tanner, I would err on the side of more scudding. And again, you do have somewhat of a measure, which is to look at the liquid that's coming out of the hide. Is it dirty? Is it milky? Or is it clean? If it's clean, you could probably dispense with the rest of the scudding. And that's more the measure that I go by than anything else. Okay, here's the brand. So I am going to scrape that. And I've noticed so far that it seems to be strong. Like, I'm not really damaging anything too much. However, I'm not going to push my luck. You know, I'm going to do a little bit of detail work, and then I'll just tan it and clean it up later. You know, it could even be after it's completely tanned, or when it's partly tanned, I'll take it out and mess with it. You know, there's no need for me to get it super ultra clean right now. Okay, I'll see you on the other end of this step. Look how nice it's looking now. It's got some scrape lines. These are veins right here that kind of bust open and leave grooves. There's a lot of score marks, but it's getting as clean as it's going to get pretty quick here. So this is all refleshed and the hair side's gone over again. I can do that pretty much every day. I could even do it twice a day. Like if I did it in the morning, put it in fresh water, hopefully kind of stir it around once. Actually, I didn't do that. So I want to get in here and kind of like make sure this is, you know, really well soaked up before I walk away. And then make sure it's all the way, you know, soaking the bottom. None of it's like floating above the surface. Anyway, once a day would be good on that until it's ready. I could do other things to that, like baiting and drenching, but I'm not going to. These hides are already kind of messed up. I don't feel like taking the time. Take a look at these before we walk off. You can see they're coloring up nicely. That is the grain side. Look at the little bit of unevenness. That's just from not stirring, and I've stirred it like 3 times. That's actually not bad. That's pretty good. This is the flesh side. It'll take up color a little bit faster. So again, I just want to kind of really pull these out kind of like that and put them back. I should do that several times today. Now this partly tanned hide, I just threw in this, you know, partial bucket of bark liquor from down there. And I don't have high hopes for that. And then this liquor is ready to go. When those have used up all the liquor in there, they'll go into this liquor, but I will bring you guys along for that ride. There's an air bubble in there. It's one thing you have to do sometimes is just kind of gently push on them to get air out of them.